I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. 4 more years for the president. Concerns about Catholic priorities after the vote. And concerns about a new storm targeting our already wounded area. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The people have spoken. Their message on Tuesday night sent President Obama back to Washington for a second term. The president and his family walked on stage at the campaign's headquarters in Chicago early this morning. The crowd of 10,000 people erupted. The president won 50% of the popular vote, but his victory came more easily than predicted by the polls as he swept nearly all the battleground states to take at least 303 electoral votes, well over the 270 needed to win. Now, when Vice President Biden and his family joined the Obamas on stage, a blizzard of confetti fell on them. Over in Times Square, a large crowd gathered to await the news of the election results, and when the president was declared the winner, oh, they cheered. The enthusiasm was strong, though the night air was cold. Outside the White House, students from local colleges celebrated the victory and chanted 4 more years. In Chicago, the president's victory speech was passionate. The campaign slogan had been a single word: forward. The president talked about what lies ahead.
I believe we can seize this future together because we are not as divided as our politics suggests. We're not as cynical as the pundits believe. We are greater than the sum of our individual ambitions, and we remain more than a collection of red states and blue states. We are and forever will be the United States of America. And together, with your help and God's grace, we will continue our journey forward and remind the world just why it is that we live in the greatest nation on earth. Thank you, America. God bless you. God bless these United States.
Governor Romney, meanwhile, was in Boston, joined on stage by Vice Presidential nominee Paul Ryan and both their families at campaign headquarters. The crowd greeted them with warm applause. Mr. Romney told them that he had spoken with the president.
I have just called President Obama to congratulate him on his victory. His supporters and his campaign also deserve congratulations. I wish all of them well, but particularly the president, the first lady, and their daughters. This is a time of great challenges for America, and I pray that the president will be successful in guiding our nation.
Now here in New York, the Empire State Building told the tale of the election. The top of the skyscraper was bathed in blue light once the president's victory was announced. Now, had Governor Romney been the winner, the lights would have been red. Up next, just a week after Hurricane Sandy, a new storm headed this way. Details as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. The words, "Oh no, not again," may be the best ones right now. Another storm, a nor'easter, hitting us hard with strong winds, a new storm surge, and this time, snow.
So we could have some snow on the ground and certainly some snow on the trees. That makes trees who already have their base flooded more likely to fall over, and that's something that we're really going to worry about.
The National Weather Service forecasted rain, snow, and sleet with wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. New evacuations are being ordered. The head of Catholic Charities is worrying about what the potential approaching storm will do to all those trying to recover from Hurricane Sandy. Father Larry Snyder says the risk of floods remains high. Many thousands of people remain without power, and those in the worst areas are struggling to stay afloat. Now, throughout the disaster, Catholic Charities often has been the first group on the scene, offering help and hope. In Coney Island, we were there as they distribute food and water, blankets, and baby supplies.
We are in Lady of Solace in Coney Island, and we are a center for FEMA, Catholic Charities, helping people suffering from the disaster of Hurricane Sandy. Many people are coming here to offer their support. Many are coming to get support. And so this is really a beautiful place where all these endeavors meet.
Well, Catholic Charities has always been on the front lines whenever there's been a need. And many of our staff have been trained in disaster relief assistance. It really is very much part of our mission as Catholic Charities to be here with the people, getting them what they need, and walking through them during this process.
Oh, they've just been affected massively. It's very, very tragic. They are the most accommodating, gracious people I have worked with in a long time. They're wonderful.
So FEMA is helping people register for financial assistance, helping them sort through their insurance process, helping people get connected to resources such as food stamps and other public assistance benefits that they may be entitled to now after the hurricane.
We can give them, and many times we do if they are found eligible in our system, rental assistance. So we can help them pay rent while they are transitioning from one residence to another.
With the Red Cross, especially with us, is that we're able to follow up. If people can come to the shelters and register, even if they don't need a place to stay for that night, we will be able to get them in our system and be able to help them along further.
Right now what we're in need of is food, water, personal hygiene products, baby supplies, flashlights, and batteries. There is still no power or heat in most of this area. And also I would encourage people to go to our website, Catholic Charities website, which is ccbq.org, where they can make a monetary donation. And money is really going to be what's going to help us the most right now.
Yeah, I'm not out here for myself, I'm out here for the kids. I was able to get my kids something to eat and something to drink, and thank God we can make it another day.
I'm blessed. I feel blessed for Catholic Charities and everybody else that's helping out, because if it wasn't for them, a lot of people would really be stuck. I mean, the storm, the hurricane, it really destroyed us, but thanks to everybody coming out and everybody's help, we're coming along, thank God. We just have to take it day by day.
People are ready to share their faith and to also find in this disaster a new beginning. Many people lost everything, and now for them it's a new beginning, as difficult as it is.
I worked an awfully lot of disasters, and believe me, disasters bring out the best in people. And when you get right down to it, you know, it's helping each other, and that's what we're all about.
And some more important information for you. On Staten Island, the Catholic high school admissions test is set for Friday. For students unable to take the test because of the storm, a makeup exam will be held on November 17th. The New York Archdiocese will make arrangements for non-Staten Island students if necessary. A woman from California made other arrangements to vote yesterday. Chris Marrow is in New York helping us to recover from Hurricane Sandy. She voted in Manhattan by absentee ballot and with a special affidavit. She and another emergency worker from Texas waited online but were happy to cast their votes. President Obama last night made note of the extraordinary efforts to help us recover from the storm.
I've seen it on the shores of New Jersey and New York, where leaders from every party and level of government have swept aside their differences to help a community rebuild from the wreckage of a terrible storm.
And now, of course, we must deal with a new storm. Currents will continue after the break. Now that Election Day is over, new questions and concerns about Catholics and our priorities. Next. Welcome back. Pope Benedict has congratulated President Obama on his re-election. A Vatican spokesman says the Pope hopes the president will promote a culture of life and religious freedom. Cardinal Dolan also offered his good wishes. Elsewhere, in 3 states, Washington, Maryland, and Maine, voters approved same-sex marriage despite opposition from U.S. bishops. Washington, Massachusetts, and Colorado approved the use of marijuana anytime by anyone. And in a close vote, Massachusetts did not approve assisted suicide. Now, yesterday's vote is is still being studied, but it appears a majority of the Catholic vote went for President Obama. Catholics who attend weekly Mass seem to have favored Mr. Romney. Monsignor Kieran Harrington is the Vicar for Government Affairs and Public Policy for the Diocese of Brooklyn. Earlier today, I asked him why the vote turned out as it did.
If you take a look at the history of presidential elections, an incumbent president who has not been challenged by his own party in a primary typically wins re-election. So you got to consider that President Obama did not have a challenge in his party. Governor Romney had to go through a primary process. During that primary process, he was expending a lot of resources, defending himself from attacks by Republicans and attacks from the Democrats. So clearly he was being defined in the key battleground states. I think if you take a look at the polls are always a snapshot in time, and it was clear, if you take a look at those polls, that the Obama administration campaign was very successful in defining Romney. And as a result, even though the election was very close, he was to lose. But I don't think it was really to be unexpected. There may have been a lot of people hoping that Romney could win, but I don't think it was unexpected that he lost.
Having said that, as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, it would seem, obviously now, that the only thing that's changed is we know for a fact who will lead our nation over the next 4 years. The concerns and priorities of the Catholic Church, however, are still as they are, and for the most part, would you say have not really been addressed in such a way that suggests solutions are imminent? Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think that, look, from the Church's perspective, key issues, certainly health care reform has been a key issue for us, supportive of nationalized health care, but not supportive of mandates that will require us to be engaged with the conduct that we consider to be morally objectionable. That issue has not been resolved from our perspective. I think that in the Catholic community there is a lot of disappointment with the Obama administration in the past in terms of passage of immigration reform, which, as you know, the Obama administration had promised to do in the first term, had not accomplished. At the end of this last term, he had done some modifications to delayed deportation, but the reality is that immigration was not done. I think, on the other hand, there are some real pluses to the Obama administration in terms of funding for Catholic social organizations. So, on balance, I think that clearly Church made a very strong effort on the religious liberty issue. We were not successful in convincing the president, and clearly it does not seem that that had an effect in this election cycle.
So where are we now, Monsignor? Is it back to the drawing board? Do we develop a new strategy now to once again approach the administration? Because again, we're dealing with the same issues, the same administration, but do we go back with the same strategy in hopes of maybe changing their minds or maybe finding some kind of more compromising ground?
Well, I don't know. You can't compromise on something that you consider intrinsically evil. And so when you consider something to be intrinsically evil, there's not an ability to compromise on that issue. I do think that there will be new approaches to the administration. I assume that there will be a different look to the administration, a different personnel involved in the administration. Maybe the administration will be a little more agreeable to our sensibilities. Look, the electorate is divided, right? So if you take a look at the electorate, it's clear that we're separated by 2 million people. It's a very divided electorate, and I think the president is probably aware of that and is going to be looking for common ground. There are probably a lot of more divisive issues that they'll be dealing with. Certainly on taxes, I think that will be a very divisive issue. Immigration will be a very divisive issue. So in looking to find common ground, you would think this is an easy one for both parties to kind of come together and kind of come to some sort of accommodation. Up to now, it doesn't seem like the administration has really been willing to compromise on the issue.
In the time we have left, Monsignor, I really want your opinion on this. With the understanding that the Catholic Church is strictly nonpartisan, I have to repeat that as much as I can. The message to the faithful was to vote their conscience, vote what they believe, what defines their faith. Now, the election may be over, obviously, but the commitment to this effort should not be, right? How do we forward this commitment among our parishes and our dioceses policies?
Liz, I think the big question that a lot of people are asking ourselves is, look, beginning at the end of June, Catholic bishops launched a massive campaign on religious liberty, spoke about religious liberty extensively over the last few months. And the question is, did that resonate with people? If you take a look and look at polling that indicates that people who are church-going people did not support the president. Overwhelmingly, church-going people did not support the president. So if you went to church every week, it was very unlikely that you were going to vote for the president. The reality is that demographic has shrunk. So as a person of faith, my concern first is not over the election. My concern is what's happening in terms of why are fewer and fewer people going to church on Sunday. I think that's what we got to key into first and foremost. I think secondly, what the election showed is you have a growing Latino population in the United States, right? And so if you take a look at the polling, you see that they're making up now over 10% of the population. These are Catholic voters. And so we've got to kind of find a way of speaking to folks that's going to kind of recognize their needs, wants, and desires, their hopes and aspirations. And I think that's going to be the major challenge for us as a church on a go-forward basis. And certainly anybody who seeks to be a majority party, they've got to be concerned about coalitions that will involve millennials, young people. How do you speak to young people? The president has done an effective job doing that. And the Latino population, which he's also done a very effective job in. Lastly, I would say there's a huge gender gap with women. What are the issues that are motivating women? It's clear that the Obama administration has campaigned on the issue of abortion in this cycle. There are certain missteps that have happened by some Republican elected officials. I think that all contributed to what we saw in the outcome of this election. But at the end of the day, I would just say this, is that when you take a look at Ohio, which is where the race really came down to, Governor Romney's position that the government auto bailout was a mistake was really the defining issue. The reality is that probably cost him the election in Ohio. Now, the Republican Party was probably going to be looking and trying to understand what happened in this election. There'll be some questions about, is social issues what's hurting us and women? Is it Latinos? Is it millennials? But the reality is this was a tactical election. It was an uphill battle for a challenger to an incumbent president who did not have a primary, who had enormous resources at his disposal. So from my perspective, this was not surprising, and I think that we've got to be careful about overreacting, and it's very difficult to do this analysis the day after an election.
All right, Monsignor, it is always so great having you on. You always bring such a comprehensive perspective to our issues. I really do appreciate it, but I'm afraid we have to leave it there.
Happy to be with you.
I'm happy to have you here and hope you come back with us more often.
Good, and congratulations to the President on his re-election, and we continue to pray for him and hope that the Holy Spirit guides him and all those who have been elected in office so that they always defend the dignity and sanctity of life, help restore prosperity, and bring about peace among all people.
Very well said. Thank you, Monsignor.
Thanks, Liz.
Meantime, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has a new website to protect religious freedom. FirstAmericanFreedom.com is encouraging education, prayer, and public action. The bishops say our first freedom includes not only the freedom of worship, but also the freedom to serve the common good in accordance with faith. And as we hear now, the Archbishop of Philadelphia, Charles Chaput, says that the world of political secularists often is in conflict with people of faith.
When it comes to religious freedom, sometimes people argue that Catholics should be careful not to impose their religious views on other people. And people who tell us that are often secularists who are in the business of imposing their views on Catholics and on the Church. Commitments of one kind or another are embodied in most of human decisions. And if we don't promote the view of our faith, somebody else's view of reality is going to be promoted. Politics is about someone's point of view winning over somebody else's after vigorous debate, or sometimes without very vigorous debate. So I think it's very important for Catholics to be involved in the world in a very active way, and to let their faith infuse their way of thinking, their way of acting, so that our world becomes a friendlier place for every human being and for the common good. Many secularists fear religion, and they think that people who are believers are dangerous. Somehow religious views are the cause of wars and fighting in the world. But if you look back into the most recent history, you know, the time of World War I and World War II, the ideologies that led to world conflict there were not religious points of view. They were secularist points of view without God. They're much more dangerous than a world that's populated by people who are believers. Christianity inherently leads to peace because it's based on a common view that God is a father of us all and that we are sisters and brothers to one another, which really brings us to unity. So Catholics shouldn't fall victim to those kind of warnings from the secular left, because those are self-serving warnings. And I think I would be every bit as afraid of the secular left as any other group, because without God at the heart of who we are, man on his own does some pretty miserable things.
And stay with us. There's more currents after the break. The journey to Our Lady's National Shrine, our diocese pilgrimage, and the Year of Faith. Next. In the final hours before the polls closed yesterday, President Obama worked the phones to get out the vote. But one call didn't go quite as smoothly as expected.
Hi, is this Hattie? Hi, this is Barack Obama. How are you? I'm doing, you know. Sure. I don't think she noticed me. My name was Barack Obama, you know, the president of the United States.
Hi, it's Justin Frozen.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, but you know, can I just say you were really polite to me when you didn't know who I was, which is, you know, that's so nice.
When the president returns to Washington, he's going to have to find a new ambassador to the Vatican. Miguel Diaz is leaving his post after 3 years service. He's going to teach at the University of Dayton, Ohio. The ambassador made a farewell visit to the Pope today. Meantime, the Pope is offering other congratulations on another election. Earlier, we told you about the Pope's message to President Obama. The Holy Father is also praising the new leader of the Coptic Orthodox Church, the largest Christian church in the Middle East. On Sunday, Bishop Tawadros was selected as the head of the church. His election, however, was different from what we may be used to. Inside the Coptic Cathedral in Cairo, a young boy was blindfolded. Then a chalice containing the names of 3 senior church leaders was brought forward and the youngster's hand was guided into the cup. After his selection, the name of the winner was revealed to all. The Copts believe the ceremony reflects the will of God. The Coptic Church represents about 10% of Egypt's 83 million people. Roman Catholics believe that the pilgrimage is a journey in answer to God's call. Every 2 years, Bishop DiMarzio leads the diocese on a pilgrimage to Washington and the National Shrine of Our Blessed Mother. And as we learn, this year's journey has added significance.
Today, we come to this shrine of Our Lady to entrust the beginning of the Year of Faith in our diocese to her.
Today we're at the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. for our biannual pilgrimage of the Diocese of Brooklyn to this shrine here. Every 2 years we come with devotion to Our Lady, and this year, the Year of Faith, it's a special year for us to be here.
And it's a tradition that has taken place with the Diocese of Brooklyn since the shrine opened in 1920. Brooklyn was the first pilgrimage here to the shrine. Ever since then, every bishop since has found it important and special under the patronage of Our Lady that we make pilgrimage here every 2 years to be in union with the Church and in union with our Lord and His Mother.
This shrine is a place, a sacred place, for all people to encounter the divine.
Travel 5 hours, then they're greeted out front by our bishops. Today, Bishop DiMarzio was joined by Bishop Cisneros. 2 o'clock is a period of adoration and benediction, right in the presence of our Lord. And during that time, every pilgrim will have the opportunity to have the sacrament of confession available. And then we begin with Mass, and that's the highlight of our day, centered around the Eucharist. And then, believe it or not, at 5 o'clock, it's time to get back on the bus and head back to Brooklyn and Queens, hoping that everyone had a wonderful day.
Pilgrimage always reminds us that it is by sacrifice that we increase our faith. And it is most appropriate as we journey and as we pilgrim that we have the opportunity, under the patronage of the Immaculate Conception, using Mary's witness as pillar of faith, to recognize that our faith, like Mary's, is developed throughout our lives.
But it uplifts everybody to see each other making this sacrifice to do a pilgrimage to Our Lady. And it makes them go home spiritually refreshed and at the same time energized. And that's what we need in this year of faith.
Everybody who comes here identifies with his own belief, with his own love for Mary, with his own unity with the church. So it's a beautiful place.
And so, my dear brothers and sisters, today as we celebrate this Eucharist, we seek the gift of conversion, that we might be truly instruments in the hands of God to bring the new evangelization to others in this year of faith.
It's a beautiful way to see the church, you know, the movement of the church, the movement of the Holy Spirit in the church, and to see parishioners here, to see the life of a priest and what we can offer to the church. It's just an amazing experience to see this.
It gives me an inspiration that God is here with us, and we have to get together and pray. I would not miss it, and I will encourage anybody to come.
For me personally, you felt the sacrifice of the day. It was getting up early, going on a journey. This isn't going to the daily Mass or a weekly Mass. It was a journey. It was a sacrifice. You knew that you were doing something above and beyond just a day of prayer. So for me, it was special that I know I was dedicating more, and I got more out of it than I could ever put into it.
It's always heartwarming to see the diversity of the diocese and so many people here. Perhaps there were close to 3,000 people here in the Basilica today. It's a wonderful opportunity to enliven our own faith by seeing the faith of so many people.
They came at great sacrifice and for great length. But you know why? We're all here for one reason. Because we're Catholic, we're proud, and we're not ashamed to express our faith.
All right, thank you for joining us. Please join us tomorrow for our continuing coverage of the rescue, recovery, and rebuilding from our storms, tomorrow night on Currents. Until then, visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.